Welcome to another exciting episode of Ewa in the Temple. I'm your host, Priestess Ewa. I'm the CEO, the Chief Consultant, and the presiding priestess at Ewa Herb Spiritual and Fertility Center Limited. So today, let's dive in. I'm going to be answering a few questions today. Because I'm of a Christian background, meaning that my parents, my grandparents were active believers of Christianity and they practice it to the full extent that you can imagine. I get to be asked a lot of these questions. Are you a Christian? Are you born again? Do you believe in the death, resurrection, and the birth, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus? Do you pray in the name of Jesus? And all of those good stuff. So today I would attempt to answer the question. All right, so Isheshe is the IFA mode of worship of the Yoruba people, and a lot of other religions are embedded in Isheshe. Is that okay? So first of all, you talk about a Christian. Now, who's a Christian? That's the first question I ask you when you ask me, am I a Christian? Who's a Christian? The word Christian was first mentioned as recorded in the Bible in the book of Acts, in the place called Antioch. That was the first place where the disciples were first called Christians. And it simply means like Christ-like. They were like Christ. They had seen Jesus Christ walk the face of this earth, and they had noticed some things about him, his character, his attitude, his mode of life, his lifestyle generally. And at the time, Jesus had died and has resurrected, right? And they saw these people who were acting just like him. And they said, oh, you guys are like Christ. You guys are Christians. That's where the word came from. Now, what is that thing that is Christ-like? What is that thing that they saw? It's basically what we call godliness, godly attitude, modesty. Not limited to modesty, but godliness as a whole. And I believe every form of spirituality has it. In Isheshe, it is called Iwakbele. So you see that thing you call Christ-like is what we call Iwakbele, Iwariri. Iwakbele just literally means good attitude, good behavior. You know, English is limited in vocabulary when it has to translate these ancient languages. So it is simply godliness. That's that lifestyle that is expected of you. When you identify with certain religion, there's some things that is just expected of you. So that's simply what it is. So you as a Christian, you call it being a Christian. You call it being Christ-like. I, as an Isheshe practitioner, practicing Isheshe and Ifa mode of worship, I call it Iwakbele, Iwariri. It's as simple as that. Now, talking about the birth, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus, see, Ifa recorded it long before Jesus was born. Yeah. And I'm going to explain that a little bit. If you need like full in-depth explanation, then you should join my spiritual mentoring class. But I'm going to give you, a brief explanation to answer this question. And I'm going to be making reference to this book. Yeah, this big book. It's the Holy Book of Ifa, as written by Oloye Ifalere Odegbola. And the Oloto of this book is Omowe Adiola Adijat Faleye. So we're going to be reading from the Odrifa that is called Ejiogbe. Odrifa are like verses of Ifa, like you have verses of the Bible, called Ejiogbe. And I'm going to be reading Essay KG as compiled and written in this book. Okay. It says Fun Onibere. Anybody that this Odrifa comes out to, that's the Onibere. So as I read in Yoruba, I'll translate in English. Eni tí Ifá yìí bá yọ sí ìbéèrè rẹ̀. Ifá ń sọ fún ọ pé o wà nínú ogun ọmọ aráyé. Ifá ní kí o ní sùúrù kó má ṣe bẹ̀rù. Ẹbọ tó wà lókè ní kí o rú, kí àwọn babaláwo jáwé Ifá fún ọ yóò ṣẹ́gun. Òótọ́ inú ẹbọ pẹ̀lú Olódùmarè tó rán wá ṣe rere láyé yóò gbé ọ lékè. Now that simply means that anybody that this Odrifa comes out, during the Ifa divination, the person is in a lot of trouble, right? And Ifa says you should not be afraid that the appeasement and the sacrifices that was stated in this book as we read further is what you are required to do, and the truth of your heart and the ebo with your prayers to Lady Mary will save you. Now let's go on to the Ashekpikpa. Oyigi tí Ifá sọ̀rọ̀ nínú ẹsẹ̀ Ifá yìí, ọmọge ni. Oyigi is the name of the person we are talking about in this Odrifa, and she was a maiden, she was a young lady. Kori ọkọ fẹ́, she did not get a man to marry her. Ó wá lọ dá Ifá pé báwo ni òun yóò ṣe ní ọkọ tí òun yóò sì rí ọmọ bí. She went for a divination with Ifa, asking that how would she be able to have a child and how would she be able to have a husband. Okay, wọ́n sọ fún pé yóò rí ọmọ bí. Ọkùnrin ni ọmọ tí Ifá sọ pé yóò bí, àti pé ọ̀nà ìyanu ni yóò gbà bí. Now she went to make inquiries for two things, for her to have a husband and to have a child. But when Ifa was going to respond, Ifa said they should tell her that she would have a child, and that child will be a male child, and that child will be born in a miraculous way. Ifa did not mention anything about her having a husband. Now, let's continue. It says, wọ́n ní kí ó tọ́jú ẹkù méje, ẹja méjì, ẹkù méjì, ẹja méjì, àgbébọ̀ adìyẹ méjì, àti ogójì ọ̀kẹ́ owó. Those are the things they asked her to use. List of items for the ètùtù. Ó ṣe ètùtù yìí, àwọn babaláwo ṣẹ́ Ifá fún. Wọ́n sọ fún pé babaláwo ní iṣẹ́ ọmọ náà. Láìpẹ́ kò rí nǹkan oṣù rẹ̀. Nígbà tí kò sí ní ọkọ, kò ka àpẹẹrẹ yìí kún. So she did the ètùtù that was required of her, the appeasement. She did it, and the babalawo said that Ifa has instructed them to tell her that the child she's going to have is going to be a priest. Okay, and then after a few months, she her period ceased. Okay, she skipped her menstrual cycle, but she has not been with a man at the time, so she didn't pay any attention to these akbere is what this significance, or she didn't pay attention to that thing that happened. You know, I mean, she hasn't had any kind of knowledge with any man, so her period season wouldn't have come to her as pregnancy, right? Nígbà tí ó tó oṣù kẹfà, àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ rẹ̀ ń sọ fún pé ó ti lóyún. Ọ̀rọ̀ yìí jọ Òyìgí lójú torí pé òun kò ní ọkọ, òun kò sì ní àjọṣepọ̀ pẹ̀lú ọkùnrin kankan. 6 months later, her friends were telling her, babe, you look like you're pregnant, girl. And then she says, how am I going to be pregnant? I don't even have a man. I haven't had any intercourse with any man in like forever. Èyí ló jẹ́ kí ó tọ̀ àwọn awo lọ. Wọ́n sọ fún pé Ifá sọ pé oyún ló wà nínú rẹ̀. Ọ̀nà tí ó gbà lóyún yìí jọ àwọn náà lójú. Wọ́n mú lọ sí ọ̀dọ̀ Ọ̀rúnmìlà. Baba Agbọ́nirègún. Ọ̀rúnmìlà sì fún ní ẹ̀kúnrẹ́rẹ́ àlàyé pé olókìkí ọmọ ni ọmọ náà yóò jẹ́, babaláwo sì ní pẹ̀lú. So she went to her babalawo, to her priest, to say, see what happened. I need you to check. I don't understand what is inside me. And then they did a divination, and Ifa confirmed that she was pregnant. And even the priest was surprised as to how she got pregnant without meeting a man. So they took her to Ọ̀rúnmìlà. Ọ̀rúnmìlà gave them the full details of her pregnancy and the kind of child she was going to have. And Ọ̀rúnmìlà said he's going to be a very famous child, and he's also going to be a priest. Ọ̀rúnmìlà bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí tọ́jú rẹ̀. Igi ni Òyìgí ń ṣẹ́ fún oúnjẹ. Ó lọ ṣẹ́ igi ní ọjọ́ kan ni ó bá bí ọmọ sí inú igbó. Ó sì lọ sí abúlé tí ó súnmọ́ ibẹ̀. Ó pè wọ́n sí ìyàlẹ́nu. Àwọn ènìyàn tí wọ́n dé ibẹ̀, wọ́n bá ọmọ náà. Ó ti dá ìwọ ara rẹ̀. Ó jókòó sí orí ọpọ́n Ifá onídẹ. So Ọ̀rúnmìlà started taking care of her, and her job was she used to go to the woods to fetch firewood. And on this particular day, she went to the woods to fetch firewood, and she had her baby there. So she went into the neighboring village to call people, you know, to come and help. And when they came there, they were surprised because the baby was born, and the baby had sat down on Okmo Ifa. You know that I don't have my own close by. You know that it's like a tablet like this, yeah, like this round wooden thing where we put the Ifa, that's like the powder where we make the marks, and you know that's Okmo Ifa, yeah. So the baby had sat on it. Now let's continue. Àwọn tó tẹ̀lé Òyìgí kíkú oríire nítorí ọmọ ńlá tí ó bí, wọ́n sì padà sí ibùgbé tiwọn. Òyìgí gbé ọmọ náà gbé ilé lọ. Now the people that came out from the village, from the nearby village, they congratulated her, and they went by their daily activities, and Òyìgí took her child home. Òyìgí lọ béèrè kí ni orúkọ ọmọ yìí. Wọ́n ní kí ó máa jẹ́ Ẹ̀là ọmọ Òyìgí. Ọmọ yìí ń dàgbà ní ojoojúmọ́. Nígbà tí ó tó iṣẹ́ kọ́, Òyìgí fà lé Ọ̀rúnmìlà lọ́wọ́. Ó sì kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ dé ojú àmì. Now, Òyìgí went to find out, I mean, this is a special child. I should not be the one to name the child. What will the name of this child be? And Ọ̀rúnmìlà said his name will be called Ẹ̀là, the son of Òyìgí. And the child grew every day. And when it was time for him to learn a trade, to get educated, Òyìgí took him to Ọ̀rúnmìlà, and he started learning from Ọ̀rúnmìlà. He started learning priesthood and everything about Ifa, and he learnt it to the mark, dé ojú àmì. Ẹ̀là ọmọ Òyìgí ní òtítọ́ púpọ̀ nínú Ọ̀rúnmìlà àti gbogbo ènìyàn. Tó bẹ́ẹ̀ gẹ́, nígbà tí Ọ̀rúnmìlà fẹ́ padà sí òde ọ̀run, ó pe gbogbo awo àti ọmọdé àti àgbà, ó ní àkókò ti tó fún òun láti fi àbọ̀ fún Olódùmarè. Bí wọ́n bá fẹ́ bá òun sọ̀rọ̀, kí wọ́n sọ̀rọ̀ fún ẹ̀là, òun yóò gbọ́ ohun tí ó bá sọ. Ó pé Olódùmarè pé kí ó dá ẹ̀wọ̀n sílẹ̀, tí ó sì ti bá lọ sí òde ọ̀run. Now, after Orunmila started training him, so it was recorded here that he was truthful to everybody. He was truthful to Orunmila, including everybody. Okay, and to the point that when Orunmila was going to return back to heaven, Orunmila called all the priests, both young and old. He called everybody and he said, the time has come for him to go back to Olodumare. And before he goes, he was giving them an instruction that anytime they wanted to speak to him, they should speak to Ella, the son of Oyigi, that he will hear everything that he said. And Olodumare sent a robe from heaven, and that was what Orunmila used to return back to heaven. Did you note that? He said if they were going to ask him for anything, they should ask Ella. He would hear whatever it is that they tell Ella. Ella ṣe iṣẹ́ yìí fún ìgbà pípẹ́. Ella ọmọ Oyigi kò ní ìyàwó, bẹ́ẹ̀ ni kò bí ọmọ. Nígbà tí àkókò tó tí ó fẹ́ padà lọ, ó sọ fún gbogbo babaláwo pé òun yóò máa gbọ́ ohun tí wọ́n bá wí. Àṣẹ tí Ọ̀rúnmìlà fi sílẹ̀ kí ó tó lọ ni kí wọ́n máa tẹ̀lé. Now, let me pause there. Ella continued in his work as a priest for a very long time. He didn't have a wife and he didn't have children. When it was time for him to return back to heaven, he told all the babalawo that he would be listening to them anytime they talk. He would hear them, even though he would no longer be here on earth with them. And then he said that the same ashe that Orunmila gave to them before he left, which is to speak to Ella anytime they wanted to speak to him, that ashe, that instruction will still be in place. Okay? Àṣẹ tí Ọ̀rúnmìlà fi sílẹ̀ kí ó tó lọ kí wọ́n máa tẹ̀lé. Ìdí nìyí tí ó ṣe jẹ́ wípé tí a bá fẹ́ pe Ella rọ̀. Okay, sorry, let me read that again. Ìdí nìyí tí ó fi jẹ́ pé bí a bá ti pe Ella rọ̀ ní ìgbà mẹ́ta, Ọ̀rúnmìlà rọ̀ ní ìgbà mẹ́ta yóò gbọ́ láti òde ọ̀run láti fèsì ìbéèrè wọn. Bákan náà ni àwọn ènìyàn yóò sì rí ìdáhùn sí ìbéèrè wọn. Wow. So he said here that they should follow the ashe that Orunmila has given. Then the writer is telling us that this is the reason. If we call Ella Ro 3 times, Orunmila Ro 3 times, he would hear from heaven to answer all our questions. Likewise, anybody that asks, he will give them answers to all their questions. So even after Ella left, all they had to do was call his name 3 times. Ella Ro, Ella Ro, Ella Ro, ní ìgbà mẹ́ta. Orunmila Ro, Orunmila Ro, Orunmila Ro, ní ìgbà mẹ́ta. Anything that he asks, he will hear from heaven and he will give them the desires of their heart and answer their prayers. Okay, so it continues to talk about the Ogbonti Akko, the lessons that we learned from this Urifa, but I'm not going to talk about that today. Now, there was a virgin who was prophesied to that she was going to have a child born in a miraculous way. She had the child without any intercourse with a man. The child was born in the woods. The child grew up and he was trained as a priest. He kept on working in priesthood. By the name of that child, Orunmila said we should ask anything and he would hear. When that child left for heaven, a grown man at the time, he said, anytime you wish to ask anything, just ask in my name 3 times. I will hear from heaven. I would answer your prayers and I would give you answers to your questions. What does that sound like? No, let's put aside the nomenclature of Jesus as a name, because it's not like his original name was Jesus. Okay, is in my language in Yoruba we call JESUS. Some other people call Jesus, Yeshua, Yesu, so many different things. So that's just in nomenclature. But this record or this recording, this story, this history, what does it sound like? Yeah, I leave you to decide what the answer is. You see, knowledge is power. I keep saying it. God revealed himself to different people in different ways. He's God. There is no religion, culture, or race that is the full custodian of everything spirituality. You understand? So, but you see, IFA is special. IFA contains everything from religion to science to philosophy is right there. So if you don't want to cheat yourself, if you want to be open-minded, I'm not going to show you my book, but get one of these books that have the recording of IFA. Read it for yourself with an open mind. Study to know it for yourself. Then you would understand why these things are what they are. Until next time, when I'll be back in this space, this is Ewa in the Temple, and it is me saying, Ìṣẹ̀ṣe làgbà, ìṣẹ̀ṣe làgbà gbogbo wa. Ọlọ́run Elédùmarè á máa fàṣẹ sí iṣẹ́ ọwọ́ wa. Ajé á wá fi ilé wa ṣe lé, ajé á jókòó sílé wa. Àní lájé lọ́rùn, a máa ní lọ́wọ́ ni. Àwọn òrìṣà á gbè wá o, àṣẹ Èdùmàrè.